Hello and welcome back to another Houdini tutorial. Today we're going to be working on Houdini Foundations. This is another part that Houdini offers on their website. Again, I'm just doing this partially for my own understanding. You know, it helps to review things and go over them again and try to explain them so you know what you're doing. And also because the PDF can be kind of hard to follow for beginners, and I'm an absolute beginner, and that's how it was for me. So I'm making these videos as a resource to try and help people if they're trying to make any of these projects and they're stuck somewhere in particular. They could hopefully look at these videos and find out where to go. So we're gonna go with part one, step one. And step one is just setting a new project, picking the directory you'd like it in, and then naming it whatever they'd like you to name it. And then you're gonna just save as. You're gonna pick whichever working directory you'd like, name it whatever they want to name. In this case, it's gonna be brick01. And then move on to step two, which is creating a box. So I've already done step two. I've actually done a lot of this already here in single brick. I actually haven't done a lot, just, you know, testing out some of those initial steps just to see if I was doing any good, if I understood what was going on. So we're just gonna start from scratch here and create a new box. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go home, and then we're gonna go ahead and press C. Create geometry, create geometry box, and press enter to place it at the origin. Okay, and now you can see that we've created a box object. We're just gonna go ahead and rename this guy single brick underscore one, or single underscore brick one. And so we'll just use that to differentiate it from this one. And what we're going to want to do is set our size to 0.2, 0.2, and 0.2. So 0.2 on all sides, and we're just going to go spacebar H to bring us back home so we can look at this. And now we're going to set our axis divisions to 3, 2, and 3. Alright. And now we're going to move on to step 3. So we're going to press the number, or rather we're going to choose the select tool, and now press 4 in order to go into primitive selection mode, and then hold down shift while left clicking to choose these 4 faces, and then we're going to press C, go into our menu, and we're going to model, polygons, PolyExtrude. Alright, and so now in our parameter pane we're going to use our slider to change the inset to 0.04. Okay, and now we're going to move on to step 4. So we're going to go back to our view here, and we're going to press T in order to call up the move tool. And this is, pressing T is actually going to, so as you saw by extruding earlier, we added a poly extrude to our box. So that was right here, and then now by going to the move, we've added an edit, because if I'm going to be moving the object, I'm going to be editing its orientation in some way. So that's going to be an edit node that's been added to our chain. Alright, so we've selected the move tool, and that's added to our chain, and now we're going to right click, and we're going to choose make circle, and make circle should be somewhere around here. I always have trouble finding out. There we go. So make circle, and that's going to make our square shape up there. It's going to round out the edges. And so that was also this menu right here. This is associated with the edit node. So if you're ever in an edit node, you can expect to have these options available to you. Alright? And each node has its own interface similar to that, where you can change things up and move things around as you'd like. So really, to be honest, I mean, I'm still learning every day, something new every day in Houdini, and I doubt I'll ever stop learning even if I live to be 1,000 years old. Alright, so now we're gonna go to step 5. We're gonna press C, and we're gonna go to model, polygons, and PolyExtrude again. Alright, so that adds another PolyExtrude to our chain. You can see here's our first one, and now here's our second one, and our display is automatically chosen over here, so we set to the PolyExtrude. Alright, so now we're going to set the distance to 0.5 or 0.05. You could do this manually by moving the handle, but that's extremely inaccurate. So whenever they ask for an exact value, and I'm not just eyeballing it, I just always type it in to the parameter pane up here, or in the operation panel. You could also do it there. I just prefer doing it here on the right. It just catches my eye immediately. Alright, so now we're gonna tumble. Oop. Okay. And so now we're gonna tumble around, and we're gonna press S to go into select mode and choose the 4 polygons at the bottom of the box. So here are the 4 squares that we need to choose. So we're gonna press S, hold down Shift, left click on those 4 boxes. Make sure that we didn't accidentally click on any other faces. I did that last time and it was just ugly to look at. Alright, so now we're going to press Q to repeat the PolyExtrude tool. Alright, and in the parameter pane, we're going to change our inset to 0.025. Okay, so that's what they asked for, 0.025. And now we're going to go back to the view, press Q again to repeat our poly extrusion, and we're going to set our distance to negative 0.175. And now we can see that those 4 panes that we chose have been extruded towards the top of our box. So yeah, now we can go back to home just to view our brick. Not our box. We can view our brick from the top, and we're going to move on to step 3 or step 6. So now we're going to press the number 3 within our viewer, and that's edge selection. So 3 is edge selection. You can see that we can select the geometry that we want to go to. We're just going to press N to select every edge, and then we're going to press tab right here. We're going to type in group and then press enter. So we're just going to put in this group node. As you can see, it's put in after the poly extrude. We're going to rename it. Well, not the node. We're just going to rename its group name. We're going to name that bevel edges, and we're just going to call that bevel edges 1. Or actually, we can just call it bevel edges because, so this is just a real quick thing. So you can see that in my single brick, I also have a group called bevel edges. And so you might be thinking, oh, in this brick over here, we probably want to call that bevel edges too. But we don't need to, because in Houdini, each object within its chain is, relegated to that chain. So the scope of this bevel edges name, the scope of it is relegated only to this tree. So outside of single brick 1, nobody sees bevel edges. And same for single brick. So there's also a bevel edges in single brick, but single brick 1 and single brick 2 are completely unaware of the bevel edges that the other contains. So we're just going to go back down here, and we're just going to zoom back in, group 1. Here's our group node, and so we renamed it to bevel edges. So that was the first step of step 6. And now we're going to set enable to off under base group. So we're going to turn this off, and include by edges, we're going to turn that on. And then our minimum edge angle is going to be 89 degrees, and our maximum edge angle is going to be 91 degrees. And so I can't say this with any full certainty, but I do believe that that is referring to the bevel right here. So like each corner, we're just trying to smooth them out and bevel them. So say my minimum angle's 80 and my maximum's 100. That's going to be saying to the computer or telling Houdini, hey, the maximum bevel that I want, or the range between minimum and maximum bevel is going to be between 80 and 100 degrees. So it would essentially cut out the difference. So the difference between 80 and 100 is 20. It would cut out a 20-degree difference between this face and this face, beveling it. At least that's how I understand it. I could be completely wrong. Anyways, we're going to go back to the home view. And we finished up step 6. So now we're going to go to step 7. And we're just going to press S to get our select tool. And we're going to press 9. And so 9, we're going to want to choose. So 9 brings up the select groups option. And since we named our group bevel edges, we're just going to choose bevel edges. And you can see there's not 2 bevel edges here because our other brick, if we just zoom out here, single brick right here, these two, again, unaware of each other. So there's not going to be 2 bevel edges in the group name, just the one that's in this tree. So we're going to choose this. We're going to choose bevel edges, and then we're going to go to our viewport and press C to bring up our menu. And now we're going to go to model, polygons, and we're going to go to poly bevel and click on that. Alright, so this adds a poly bevel node, and it automatically fills in the group field because we already chose it with our select groups tool earlier. So it already filled in the bevel edges group name. So all we need to do is follow the instructions that are given to us in the PDF, and those instructions are setting the bevel offset to 0.006, and what they really mean is set the distance to 0.006. So set the distance to 0.006, and then we're gonna set fillet, or under fillet we're gonna set shape to round, and that's already set to round. And divisions we're gonna set to 3. Now as for divisions, I experimented a little bit with divisions to see what they meant, and so you can see if I type in 2 divisions and I zoom in here, you can see that there's one line splitting our bevel into 2 pieces, and if I type in 1 division, you can see there's no line. So if I type in 3 divisions like the PDF asked me, you can see that our bevel is now split into 3 distinct pieces. And as I mentioned earlier, I believe that this angle, minimum and maximum, I believe that's just cutting away the difference. So the difference between 89 degrees and 91 degrees is 2 degrees. So our bevel comes out at a 2-degree curve, if you will. At least as I understand it. And so now, with that done, we can move on to step 8. So in our network view, we're going to go back up to the object level, and we're going to make sure that our single brick, in this case single brick 1, is selected, and then we're going to press shift and then the plus icon. So not shift plus anything. The PDF says shift plus, and then usually you think, oh, shift plus P or shift plus R, and then you do shift P, shift R, and that would carry out some special function. In this case, they just mean shift and the plus operator. So you're just going to hold down shift and press plus. You can see in the bottom it says turn on viewport subdivision, and from there we're just going to press. So you can see that if I control Z and went back, you can see that I have a kind of hexagonal shape up here, but if I go back into our subdivision, it turns into a circle. And then if I wanted to shade this up, let's escape that. We could shade it with our with V, so holding down V, we go to shading, and then we could wire shade it if we wanted to, but right now we just want it smooth shaded. And so now we're just going to save our work, and that is the end of part 1. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.